Happy Wednesday, dearest friends. So right now I'm on my way to the airport. I'm about to fly from Colorado to Washington. And I feel like a real vlogger because I'm going to be recording in an airport today. Spent this last weekend with some missionaries in Colorado and also with my uncle and aunt. My uncle is driving me to the airport right now and he would like to say hello.
Hello to everyone.
I forgot to mention my uncle's name is Cesar. Thank you, Cesar and Elaine, for putting me up these last couple of days. It was a blast. I'm very much going to miss Colorado. I love the people here and I also love the scenery. It's a beautiful place. So as you can see now I'm in the airport. I found a more or less secluded terminal. I'm going to just talk to my phone and look very strange to everybody that walks by. Being a vlogger can be much more awkward than I realize. So, joy. My motto in life is joy is a choice. That's not to say that my life is all unicorns and rainbows. I definitely have my share of hardship, and I would like to share with you today some things that make me a joyful person. Since we're talking about the things that I most especially base my joy in, and joy I base in Jesus, this is going to be a very Jesus-centered talk. So, let's make joy into an acronym. J stands for Jumpstart. Growing up, I was mostly just a Sunday Catholic. I would go to Mass on Sundays because my family was going. Every once in a while, my mom would have all of us kids pray a rosary with her. And every once in a while, too, I would pray in crisis situations, I guess. For example, there was one time I was riding a bus and I really had to go to the bathroom, and so I would pray, Hail Mary, full of grace, Hail Mary, full of grace, please help me, please help me, please help me. But that was my entire faith. So one summer, as I was going into 9th grade, my mom sent me to a school in California for a summer camp. This was a high school run by the Legionaries of Christ, and it was a high school for young men who wanted to become priests. That being said, my parents didn't send me there because they thought I should be a priest, but rather because they thought I needed some Catholic exposure. I didn't really want to go, but I also didn't want to get into an argument with my parents, so I just went. After about a week, I was talking to a priest at one point, and he asked me, Peter, do you want to stay for the school year? Now, I can be very clueless at times, and at this point, I didn't even realize this was a school. So I asked Father, do you mean this is a school? And he kind of smiled and said, yes, Peter, this is a school. Do you want to stay for the school year? So I said, well, let me think about it. Later that day, I made a visit to the chapel, and I simply prayed to Jesus. I said, Jesus, do you want me to stay? And I heard him say, yes, Peter, you should stay. And so I said, okay, well then I guess I'll stay. That was the easiest prayer I have ever prayed. So I stayed at the school with the Legionaries of Christ and continued to study with them for the next 7 years of my life. Great 7 years, although eventually I discerned that priesthood was not actually where God was calling me, and so I left. But so much of who I am today I got from the Legionaries, and I will always be grateful to them for that. I call this a jumpstart because this is really a moment when Jesus jump-started my spiritual life in that chapel. And I can always recall this experience to remember that Jesus is in charge of my life and he's really taking care of me. And that gives me great joy. What hadn't occurred to me as I vlog in this airport is that when there are announcements in the background, you can hear them. That, in addition to awkwardly talking to my phone as people walk by, makes for a very interesting experience. Pressing on, O stands for object, as in purpose, or end, or objective. Don't know why I didn't just say objective, but I'm stubborn, so I'm sticking with object. Allow me to paint a picture real quickly. So sometimes I carve away time to pray with Jesus, right? And I'll go to the chapel, and I'll kneel down, and then I'll promptly start thinking about everything under the sun except for Jesus. Does this happen to anybody else, getting distracted in prayer? I feel like it's pretty common. Okay, so let's put that image on the back burner for a second. Recently I had a thought, praise God. And I thought to myself, you know, I really want to be a good person. And because of that, I try to love God. Which is great, but that seems a little bit backwards. Rather than wanting to be a good person, and because I think good people love God, try to love God, shouldn't I be trying to love God first, and because I love God, try to be a good person? And that thought has helped me a lot to try to understand some of these distractions that I always seem to have. Of course, distractions are always going to be in prayer. But if my fundamental attitude is that my relationship with God is just a means towards an end, if I'm only going to the chapel because I want to check off that checkbox, then of course I'm going to be distracted. As soon as I'm in the chapel, I'm going to be thinking about other good things that I want to do. So I've been praying for the grace to make more purely God the center of my life. I believe that the meaning of life is that we are created to know, love, and serve God. That was a bold statement. But if that's true, then God is my purpose, God is my hope, and God is my joy. Alright, now for Y. Y stands for YouTube. Now I know that Y standing for YouTube is kind of like shameless self-promotion, but I'm really conceited, so that's okay. We don't have to talk about the YouTube channel itself so much. I'd actually be more interested in talking about my hopes for the channel. Does that make sense? It doesn't have to. This is a weird vlog. Whoosh! Scene change. Now I'm in Austin, Texas. Go, Peter, go! Sitting in a corner because I'm really actually a very awkward person in social situations. So you can hardly tell that I'm still at an airport, but I am. As you can see out here, there are some gates without planes, which, you know, totally proves that I'm at an airport. Anyways, Y is for YouTube, as I said. And as I explain that, let me start with a preliminary thought. I am proud to be Catholic, and I want to share that. But at the same time, I oftentimes feel awkward talking about my faith in public situations. Now, there's a few different things that factor into that. For example, I'm shy, that's why I'm sitting in the corner. But you know what, that's okay, and I can just work through that. Another issue is that oftentimes it feels like today the word Catholic can be closely paired with words like chauvinistic or intolerant or bigoted, and I just don't think that describes me. There's another factor that I think pierces a little bit deeper than the other two. Why am I Catholic? Now that's a really deep question, and the answer is not really going to fit into sound bites very well, but at the same time I think it's a good question for me to reflect on. So those are three things that make it very easy for me to simply hide my faith. So as kind of an answer to all of those things, I find that in my life I want to create spaces of open and safe dialogue with other people. I could spark some very interesting conversations and also some very interesting stories. And that, more than anything else, is what I want to bring onto this YouTube channel. I know that's a little bit vague, I'm really good at vague, but I also know that you guys are really patient with me and forgive me a lot. So I'm going to leave it there and continue to grow in my understanding of what I want from my channel and also what I want to do in life. It flatters me so much that you guys watch these videos. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope that I can bring a few smiles to your faces through my vlogs, and hopefully any reflections that I share will be a positive influence or at least thought-provoking. I wish you guys all the greatest and hope that you have an excellent week, and I will see you next Wednesday. God bless and ciao.